I'm now bringing out our expert guest who is going to do about a 30-minute deep dive into Facebook. This is Jaime Paredes. Jaime is a Facebook ads wizard. He's a great guy. He's a friend. He's also been a 7-figure mastermind member of mine for quite some time now. So I'm excited to give him the floor. I'm out of breath. I'm tired. I need some water. And I want to kick back and watch Jaime because every time he does a training, I get at least 1 or 2 ideas myself that I can implement. And he's going to take us home here. So stay plugged in. Grab some water. Get a brand new fresh notepad in hand. Jaime is going to bring us to some Facebook ads strategy work. Then we'll do a little bit of Q&A towards the end. I know we'll have some time. I know there's a lot of questions building up in the queue. So if you do have a question, you might want to start popping those into the question box right now, and I'll start to pick those off when Jaime and I do some Q&A towards the end. But let me give the floor over to Mr. Jaime Paredes, the Facebook ads wizard here. So Jaime, if you're on the host line like you should be, jump right out. I think you're live. Or you might be on mute, so let me check this out. Hold on. Jaime, can you hear me?
Yes, can you hear me?
How you doing, buddy?
Hey, Andrew. Good. I'm very good to be here. I'm very happy. Thank you very much.
Happy to have you. Were you able to hear everything thus far? I know you're moving around a little bit, so I just want to make sure you can hear and see.
I heard everything. Everything was great. Learned a lot, like usual, so I'm ready to go.
We're going to learn a lot more from you, I hope. It's kind of cool to get you on here and hear about what I think people are chomping at the bits to hear about, which is this whole big Facebook game that you have. I don't know, Jaime, how many hours do you think you've invested into the Facebook beast, if you had to guess?
Well, I mean, in terms of training, I can't tell you. I've spent probably anywhere from $10,000 to $20,000 worth of training for myself and my team, and then hours. I can't even tell you between the training and between the actual clients. It's in the hundreds, but I think a lot of agencies are in the same boat. Facebook and a lot of these platforms, literally every 3 to 6 months, they change.
Yeah,
something comes out. So if you are not on top of it, you're going to fall behind really quick.
Yeah, exactly. So Jaime, what you've done traffic for a long time. Maybe just give everybody a little bit of a background, a little bit of context on your story, where you've come from. Some people know you. I see some local people that know you, but I have a lot of global members, and we have a ton of guests on here as well. The replay will be going out. We have a huge audience, so just a little context, a little background.
Sure. So I started actually with Dan Kennedy, and I was fortunate enough to find you. So I've been with Andrew and I want to say 4 or 5 years.
More.
In the mastermind, maybe even more, maybe 6. In the mastermind for probably 2. My business has changed. I don't believe I don't believe in coincidences. My business has gone, like you mentioned, way up in the last couple of years. So the mastermind has definitely provided me a platform where I'm around really smart, much smarter people than I am, and much more successful in terms of their business, and that helps me tremendously. I don't have an ego, so I don't feel intimidated. I like to learn. I'm a huge proponent of getting as much information as possible. To one of your things you said earlier, you said the whole free game. Well, I was in the free game. I was in the SEO game for the longest amount of time, and I'm still in it, and it still pays some bills, quite frankly, but it is so hard. I mean, since when I first got started, it was not that it was easy, but it was a lot easier. So basically, in the last, I would say, 2 to 3 years, you have to be on top of the SEO game like nobody's business. A lot of it has changed. It's no longer just link building. It's a lot of content generation. It's a lot of just there's like everything. You can game it or you can do it the right way. And doing the right way is great. I mean, that's what you want to do. But guess what? It takes a long time. So one thing you said, which I completely agree with, it's not scalable. You can't grow a business on SEO. You can get some traffic. You can get some some leads, but you cannot predict with any kind of a certainty what you're getting month to month.
So Jaime, I knew that when I said it, I knew that you'd come back to that because I know that you have to beat that into your clients quite a bit when they want to skimp on advertising spend. And when you think about business owners today, oftentimes it's amazing that, and you deal with some really successful, high-level, wealthy business owners, and the last thing they want to do is spend money on advertising when it should be the first thing they want to do, and especially when they have a guy like you who actually can get them a result and deal with the technology that I think intimidates people quite a bit. So one thing I want to do is show, Jaime, unless there's anything else you want to say, I'd like to bring up one of the case studies that you mentioned and just talk about some real-world examples, which I think what people really want to see is real-world examples of what's working today
course.
on Facebook. So Jamie sent this to me, guys, and I'm going to bring this up. I'm not a PowerPoint guy, so I think I can do this. So I'm going to bring up his case study of one of his clients. Presenter view. Here we go. That should do it. No, that's not presenter view. What do I want on view? Here we go, slideshow. Got it. All right, so this is one of Jamie's. This should pop up in full size for everybody here in a second. Every time I put Microsoft on my Mac, there's all kinds of issues. Look at that. There we go. Massive delay. 40-second delay. Kidding. So there you go. So this is Jamie. You can talk about this guy, how we generated 32 leads in 18 days for a Miami marketing consultant with $614 investment. Jamie, talk about this guy. What's happening here?
So basically, this guy was an Infusionsoft consultant. He has a pretty successful podcast. He is ranked quite high on Google, and he wanted to get some leads, through paid. And I said, okay, well, Facebook's probably a good way to go. When you have, in his case, and this doesn't apply to everybody, but in his case, Facebook has something called intersecting. So basically, I can say anybody who is an entrepreneur and also has an interest in Infusionsoft, so they either own it or they like the page. That makes our job as Facebook marketers much easier. Now it's hard to say. Sometimes you have that intersect, sometimes you don't. But in this case, it was evident, and that helped tremendously in getting the number of leads we did. So in a nutshell, so we tested a whole bunch of different things. We tested an ebook, we tested a schedule, basically what's it called, a strategy call. We tested a webinar. We're going to test a webinar. We didn't get around to it. And we went from basically a Facebook ad, like you see here, static, to a landing page where we're giving away a discovery call. And it's a 45-minute call that he just goes over, a lot of value. And one of the things that we found, which was interesting for me, was initially we didn't have that video. And that video is the guy from Chicken Soup of the Soul. So we said, okay, you have this great testimonial. Let's add this guy, and we saw that the conversion on that page jump by marketing funnels and sales pages. There's little things that you can do, and you can really move the needle a lot. And sometimes it's by accident. Sometimes you're strategic about it. But like I said, this guy didn't. He had it in his portfolio. He totally forgot. Out of the blue, he said, "Hey, I have it." I go, "Really? We got to put this on the sales on the landing page." And of course, it worked tremendously well. And then the last slide there is basically what we do for our clients. We provide them on a weekly basis what's happened on their Facebook campaign. So in this case, I know it's really hard to read, but we tell them how many clicks, which is not a big deal. We tell them the price of the click. We tell them how many leads, so how many people actually subscribed to his. I think it was Calendly, one of the schedule services he uses. And then what was the conversion rate? So basically at the end, and this is interesting. I mean, this is something that people should understand. And a lot of times, myself and agencies, unless you are specific, you have one niche and that's all you do. A lot of times you don't know what the cost of that lead is gonna be. So a lot in Facebook, and I think in a lot of platforms, you have to test. And what does test mean? Is you have to test interest, you have to test copy, you have to test images, because at some point something's going to resonate. But this is kind of a numbers game as well. So what we found was, and I think it's hard to read here, but by the end of by middle of the campaign, we saw a tremendous jump in leads, because we found the right group of interests, the right group of demographics, so basically once you've hit that kind of gold mine, then it's basically scale. Initially, what we try to do is be pretty modest, be pretty frugal in the budget until we find that number and find that kind of pot of gold. Does that make sense?
Makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense. So, Jamie, you sent me an email yesterday, I think, or the day before, about a guy. I don't know if we can bring this up if this is in the case studies on your website, but I have your website up. Some guy spent $300 and made $5,400 in revenue on a couple sales, about a dozen sales or so. You want to talk about that guy?
Sure. I sent you that case. I guess you don't have it. I have a client, for anybody who's Hispanic or grills a lot. His name is, the name of the company is Caja China. It's basically a griller that you are able to grill entire animals. In this case, it's really used for pigs. It's a Hispanic thing. But anyways, it's very niche. It's a very niche thing. And what happens, what happened here was the case study is actually quite interesting. We started we started with some image ads, and they were doing okay. But then we said, you know what? This guy, it's food and it's grilling. It's very visual. So one thing that a takeaway for a lot of people is I highly recommend everybody do video. So what does that mean? So when you do a video, you have to think of it as almost like a TV commercial. You can do 30 seconds, a minute, 3 minutes, however long you need to do it to get your message across. But typically, if you have a good video, so good quality, good audio, the message is clear, you could really do wonders with Facebook. Why? First of all, because Facebook loves video. They absolutely in love with it. So what does that mean? They tend to give it more reach. They tend to give you a lower cost per click, and they tend to show it to more people because they're really, once again, they're pushing video. So in this case, what we did was we did an ad with a video ad, and this is a strategy that anybody can really apply. It's basically, in this case, we did an ad and we boosted it. So what does that mean? A lot of times we go. We put the ad and there's obviously buttons that you can say boost. You can boost for 5, 10, 20, whatever the number is. And what you do with that is you test the engagement levels. So if you boost an ad for $10 and typically what you do is you boost it to your own fan page. So this is actually going to apply to people who have some sort of number of fans. Like I would say anywhere more than 1,000, this is a good test. In this case, he had almost 21,000, which is not huge, but it's a good number. And there's fan pages with hundreds of thousands, which of course you can kill it with. But what happens with a fan page is typically, people who like the page or engage with the page will like it. I mean that's the whole purpose of liking a fan page. So those are considered a warm audience because they know your product or they know your service. So once again, we took this ad, the video ad, we ran a page post engagement to the fans. And we got a ton of engagement for, I want to say for $10. Yeah, it was for $10. And this is the initial test. For $10, we got 21 hot leads. So basically, what does that mean? They downloaded a coupon, and we got 2 sales for all of $10. Okay. And then we took that same ad. Now remember this, and unfortunately, we don't have the visual. And if they just ask you, Andrew, I can send you the case study. Basically what we did there is we took that same ad with the same social credibility. So Facebook, what it does, it shows you all the likes, the shares, the comments. You want to have that when you're doing an ad. Why? Because if you just have an ad and nobody's liked it, shared it, commented, they're like, oh, okay. But if you have an ad that has 3,000 likes, that has 100 shares, that has 40 comments, all of a sudden you're like, okay, well, something's going on here. So we took that same ad and put it and ran what they call a website conversion, and we spent $300, and I don't know the exact numbers, but the cheapest grill this guy sells is $300. The most expensive is about $1,500. So doing the numbers, we did 18 sales. So that's a minimum of $5,400 for a $300 spend.
So what do you think the big win in that campaign was, Jamie, that got that result? So $300, $400 ad spend, $5,400 plus ROI revenue.
Like I said, this what I just mentioned earlier was this is a way when the page post engagement and the boosting of regular posts. Like when you have a fan page, people typically post. They post videos, they post images. When you do a video, typically, like I said, you get a lot more engagement. So my recommendation is, and this is what the success of this campaign was, we boosted a post. It was a great video. So we took basically this guy, because he's a very niche, he had Martha Stewart, he has Bobby Flay, he has a whole 3 or 4 other very well-known chefs, and we just did a collage of different chefs talking about his product. And once again, these are don't forget, this is to his fan base, current fan base. So we did that video, put it together, and ran it to them. That is a huge lesson for everybody, because if you have and like I said, any kind of significant fan base, you can run ads to them. They already know you, and once you do, and this is the learning for everybody, and including myself. Now that we have success, and now we have even, let's say, and I don't know the exact numbers, but we've tripled or quadrupled the number of engagements. So likes, shares, comments. Now we take the same ad and we run it to a cold audience. Okay, so people who don't know who he is, but now they're going to see that ad and they're going to like, holy shit, excuse my language. They're going to say, holy crap, this guy has has I think it's like 10,000 comments. I'm sorry, 10,000 likes. He has like a couple hundred shares and let's say 100 or 2 comments. Now all of a sudden that ad, when you see it in your news feed, it kind of jumps out at you. Does that make sense?
Definitely, absolutely, love it.
So yeah, so that's a huge takeaway that people can use for their own campaigns.
Excellent. Jaime, real quick here, anything else you want to add? I know you wanted me to show people that, I don't know if there's case studies we can see, because I did bring the site up a second ago.
Yeah. If you scroll down.
Let me go down a little more. Anybody else that jumps out as plumbers I see? We have internet.
No, go to the first one, which is the Math Monkey, which is the very first one.
Yeah.
Up top, yeah.
Click this.
I don't see it. Yeah, you click.
Oh, there we go. Okay. So here's another one, Math Monkey. This is a like children's tutorial program, right?
Okay. Exactly, math tutoring service in Pinecrest. So basically, this case study, believe it or not, isn't amazing. It's an okay case study, but this is actually a lesson for a lot of people. This particular client was very frugal. Matter of fact, too frugal. Like they wanted to spend literally $10 a day. Okay, and you can spend. I think there's the minimum is 5 or even less a day. But the problem with that is it takes a hell of a long time to test. So we still, just like I mentioned the whole Kakachina thing, the actual consultant, it takes at least a week or maybe sometimes 2 weeks with a significant budget to figure out who is your target audience. But when you're doing $10 a day, you can imagine that testing takes a long time. So once we figured out, okay, so we kind of figured sort of, this is the demo that's actually clicking the links that are clicking the ads and are actually going to the landing page. You know, we spent 2, 3, 4 weeks, and not because we weren't doing our job, because these people refused to spend more money. So, like I said, like you made a very, obviously a lot of good points in your presentation, but you need to be prepared to spend, I would think, anywhere from $30 to $50 a day. Now that you can spend, of course, less. And when we're starting a campaign, we don't spend that much. We like to spend $10 to $20 a day until we know, until we have a better sense of who that target audience is, and then we scale way up. But yeah, so in this case, what we did was the approach was we didn't know if parents were going to be engaged with a photo of a mother who's like super frustrated because her daughter or her son is doing really bad in math, or the opposite, a mother that's smiling ear to ear because the grades came back and the boy has like an A+. So there's a lot of variables that go into this kind of testing, and if you think of a newsfeed on either your desktop or your mobile, what I always like to say is not just me, my mentors, you're competing in this case with Donald Trump, with Hillary Clinton, with your family in my case Canada, with kittens, with dogs. So you can imagine all these things that are coming past your newsfeed. You better have an ad that stands out. That either because of it's a video, or because of the color, or because of the copy, or a combination, it's going to make you stop whatever you're doing and go, I got to click that ad.
Yeah,
does that make sense?
That's the attention getting aspect, the big selling idea aspect I just spoke about that you have to have right away. You have to have that pattern interrupt.
Correct.
All right, good. So looking at this landing page, I can scroll down a little bit more, Jaime. Is there anything else you want to mention here as far as the approach?
So once again, and I said this already, I should have said this earlier. The 3 things that we focus on are video. So I cannot stress enough, if you're scared to be on video because you don't feel comfortable, you don't feel like you have the charisma, then find somebody in your company that is. Because what video is going to do for you, it's going to build that trust, it's going to build that credibility much faster than a static ad ever could. And if worst case scenario, you hire somebody, a talent, either Craigslist or you go to an agency and you find somebody who can represent your company, because that video is going to be worth its weight in gold. Now, another thing that we do a lot with certain clients is we get video testimonials. So what happens here is, and what you mentioned retargeting, I'll drop. This is not necessarily with this client, with this test.
I want to make sure you have some time for that also.
Sure. So we'll go, or I'll tell the client, do you have video testimonials? And they'll say yes or no. Let's assume they haven't. We'll take those video testimonials. We'll play with them, edit them a little bit. But now what we use those for specifically is when somebody lands on your website, okay, or any landing page or any asset that you own, we can now retarget them, okay? So what we do is we found that retargeting with video is typically anywhere from 3 to 8 times more not profitable, but it has a higher exposure and higher click-through rate than a static ad. Once again, why? Because video tends to get clicked. So once again, we have a video of somebody who's talking wonders about your company. That video now is going to follow you around all over Facebook. So now, and obviously, there's a budget element here that goes into play. But assuming you do it correctly, and now because that person has already landed on your website, they're familiar with who you are, what you do. Now that video testimonial serves as added credibility to, okay, now I think I want to go back. And of course, at the end of the video, you should have a call to action, correct? But when they click, they go to either the same landing page where they didn't finish, or they go to another offer that may be a little bit less expensive, or it's worded a little bit differently. But the retargeting on Facebook is extremely valuable, and it's something that we use all the time. It doesn't matter, it doesn't matter if you're starting from zero, you have a brand new website, or if you had a website forever, you have to get the retargeting pixel on those pages.
So, Jamie, when you take on a client, you do the retargeting with everybody? It's automatic? Does anybody?
Correct.
So
automatic.
Nobody doesn't have that piece attached to your stuff, right?
Well, what happens is it's free. Yeah. So well, this is the thing that some people don't know. You put the pixel on, you're not paying for it. And when you're ready, because what happens is Facebook demands that you have a certain amount of volume. And I want to say it's like in the thousands, maybe 1,000. I don't know the exact number. If you're driving traffic at a slow level, it'll take you a while to get there. But if you are building traffic at a significant level, it'll take you a couple days. And then once you have that, you can retarget those same people. And that traffic, the thing about that traffic is it's warm. They've been to your page, they've been to a website that you're familiar with, and so when you retarget them, now they're coming back to a page that they've seen before.
Mm-hmm. Love it, awesome. I'm just going through some of the specifics of this campaign. Here's the ads now, which is cool. So here are the ad creatives. Perfect example of 2 ads. Would you split test these side by side?
Correctly. Well, yeah, yes, and there should be another ad with a mom that's super depressed. So we have
the pain pleasure principle, right? This is a pleasure ad. This is a pain ad. Which one performs better?
Correct.
Which one did better?
Correct. And I don't remember at this point which. I want to say the pain did, but I can't. Don't quote me. But I'm pretty sure the pain did.
It's about 2-to-1 ratio. Pain will outperform pleasure any day of the week. It's just the way we're wired. We're wired, as a lot of you know, to be more enthusiastic about avoiding pain than we are about gaining pleasure. We tend to put off, well, that sounds good. I guess I'll get to that later. But if it can be avoiding pain, we need to do it now, right? So that's this. Okay, correct. So this is attention parents whose kids hate math. If you hate math, okay, cool. Excellent. Let's see what else here. Okay, here are the actual ads themselves. I'm just making sure this is queued up where people can see.
You see that the amount spent is really low. Like the total spends are just super. I mean, I learned my lesson with clients like this from an agency perspective is you can't get them, you can't do the job you need to do when they're spending that little money, because they're expecting wonders. And I remember this now. The cost per lead was about anywhere from $8 to $12. Okay, and I don't remember exactly
on this one.
But guess what? They were spending $10 a day. So at the very most, and this is at the very most, they're getting 1 lead a day. And which is not horrible, but we like to get 5, 10, 20 leads a day to our once again, depending on the budget, our goal is to get way more than the 1 a day. But because they were spending so little, and because the cost per lead here wasn't crazy expensive, but it wasn't peanuts. It wasn't 50 cents. It wasn't $2. By the time somebody clicked the ad, they went to the landing page. They went to, let's say, they opted in. That takes it's a process. And the more you ask somebody to do in the funnel, the more expensive it's going to get because they're expected to do more things.
Yeah,
does that make sense?
100%. So what's your recommendation here then? So based on some of these campaigns you showed us, if somebody wants to either ramp up their Facebook because they're already doing it, or get in the game in the first place, what are you telling people?
Well, for people, let's say you have a modest budget. I would, once again, or I sound like a broken record, get in front of a video, and this is the thing. And by the way, I'm gonna actually, this is credit to you, Andrew. I'm not a shy person, but I was like, I don't want to be on video. You know, it wasn't my thing. But in the last probably 6 months, I've done more video than I have in my entire life. I realized I wasn't eating my own dog food. So I was like, okay, let me be on video. If you see my website, every one of those are case studies. It's me talking about the case study. I'm doing a Facebook Live anywhere from 2 to 3 times a week. And then I get to the studio once a month, and I do about 12 videos. Okay, so I'm just telling you that the whole video thing is now, I'm a big proponent of it. And I think it had a lot to do with you, because I would see you all the time, and you always talked about it. So I said, okay, let me see what this is all about. And obviously with my business now, it's a key component. So going back to the step one is get on video. Whatever that means for you, either find yourself. Best scenario is yourself. Second best scenario is find somebody in your company that can do it. After that, you develop a video that talks about who you are, what you do, what makes you different. It could be anywhere from 30 seconds to a minute and a half. Anything that just kind of introduces the company, your company, to people on Facebook. And then what you want to do is play with the boost. So you want to do a couple of these videos, okay? It's not just doing one video and you're done. You want to have 2 or 3 of these videos with different scenarios, different maybe locations. I mean, one outside, one inside, one wherever. And then you say, okay, let me do and you spend literally $10 a day for 2 or 3 days, so $30, and you see if there's any engagement. Okay. Now, what happens if you don't have a fan base already, which some people don't have? You're going to have to do it to cold traffic, which is a lot harder to get engagement with. If you're lucky enough that, and you put in the time and you have a good fan base, you only boost it to your current fan base. Okay, and that way you're more likely to get decent likes, comments, shares. And this is the thing, once you see that you have an ad, a video that is done well, and the well is obviously it's a little subjective, but I can't get into the well here. Then what you do is you take that same ad and you put it in that same, it's hard to explain, but Facebook allows you to move that same PPE ad, page post engagement, and put it into a website conversion ad. And then you go and you send it to cold traffic. And the cold traffic is more likely now to engage when you're with your ad, because there has been some degree of likes, comments, and shares, because that ad was placed on your platform.
Yeah,
does that make sense?
Definitely. All right, good. What about for the people who are rocking Facebook already? What's changed today? What can the more seasoned person know that they may not know right now?
Okay, glad you asked me. I was just at a conference on the weekend, and I got a hack that I haven't tested yet, but the person that mentioned to me, that mentioned it to the group, said it was phenomenal. And I'd never heard of this before, but this is for the more advanced. When you're doing a Facebook ad, there's something called an audience network. So you can run an ad to your mobile, to your news feed, to the right hand side, to Instagram, and something called audience network. Audience network typically is a piece of shit. So what does that mean? People are on they're gamers. They're doing something. They're on apps. It's really bad traffic for the most part. So everybody tells you, make sure you do not run audience network. But what this gentleman said what you can do is, and I'm going to use your example of, and I know Frank Kern. I want to run a marketing campaign to people that are fans of Frank Kern. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run it to the audience network. Now, what happened with this gentleman was, he says he ran it. The clicks were super, super low. The price of the clicks was very low. And he would direct them to a page, like a blog or somewhere where they'd get more information. And what he said was the actual engagement with that blog was horrible. Like literally, the time on page was like 3 or 4 seconds. Nobody clicked any of the ads or any of the calls to action. He said, no wonder, it's a waste. But then he said, let me retarget. So what he did then was, that's those same group of people, and what he said was, he got a ton of people that knew Frank Kern, that had an interest in Frank Kern, but during at that specific time, they were doing something good. They didn't want anything to do with Frank Kern. But now, because they've already clicked your ad, they clicked your link, and they landed on a page, you can retarget them. So what he said was, he set up a retargeting campaign, and that campaign the cost of the campaign was super inexpensive, for one, and the relevancy score was very high. He said he had a ton of people come back to the same page, and at that point they were interacting with the page at a much higher level at a very, very inexpensive price.
So what you're saying is is the audience, it's the thought leader that you want to advertise to his followers and likes, so Frank Kern in that example, and then it's a retargeting campaign on the back of it.
Correct. Based on audience network, which typically is a horrible, horrible place to start, because people are doing stuff that they're like I said, they're gaming, they're on apps, they're not in a state of mind to be actually, clicking ads or whatever. But like everybody else on Facebook, they have interests, they have likes, they have their personality, and it's in their profile. So you can still target them, but it just so happens that area within Facebook is not a great time to be actually talking to them.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Got it. That makes sense. Very cool. Very cool. All right, Jamie, what else? Any final thoughts before we wrap up here?
No, I just want to say in terms of I don't require an opt-in. If anybody needs or is looking for case studies and kind of understand kind of how the system works, and when I say system, how to run a campaign, all my case studies have landing page links. You can see the actual ads, what was said. Some of the, in some cases, the A/B testing. So go to the website and just download the case studies, and you'll get a sense of what we can do, or what anybody can do if they know what they're doing.
Awesome. This is your site, Jamie. 30 leads. I think it's 30 leads, 30 days. I love this blue pill. I love this blue pill, red pill thing. I don't know if you see this right now. This is great. You have a choice, slow or fast. Lead gen. This is great. We saw this in Mastermind. Very cool. So you can learn more about Jamie at 30leads30days.com. I want to see if anybody has any questions, if you want to hang around for a few minutes. Any questions on Facebook in particular before I let Jamie roll, and then I'll start wrapping up on my end. But any specific Facebook ad questions that pertain to your business, I'll see if we can't take a few off. Here's one coming in from Josh. Hey, Josh, how's it going, buddy? This one from Josh. Josh is local. It says, and he's an attorney, what's a reasonable amount to spend per day, Jamie? Any thoughts on that based on industry or no?
Like I said, you're looking at $30 to $50 a day. I mean, that's what I would recommend. When you're first starting, you're looking at $20 to $30
per day.
But once you
okay,
yeah per day. But then once you're successful and you see the ROI, you want to scale up as fast as possible to a couple $100 a day if that's within your budget.
If you're ROIing it, obviously too. But think about that for a minute, what he just said, everybody. So you can literally be in the Facebook traffic game and I have some clients that are at $5 or $10 a day and they're making it work. It's working for them. You don't have to go break the bank on Facebook. Yes, it's sophisticated. Yes, the platform's a little intimidating, but you don't have to jump in like you would a banner ad, let's say, and invest thousands of dollars, or a solo email blast and invest hundreds or thousands of dollars right away. You can literally baby step it if you want. It takes a little more time, but Jamie, I think you'd agree, people who are on a budget, they can actually be getting a little bit per day, results, traffic, testing, conversions, etc. Right?
Yeah. One thing that I'll end with this that was actually I didn't know about. Not that I didn't know about it, but I wasn't convinced this was a good strategy until actually I heard it from a really smart person. Is basically getting like I mentioned, getting a video or even a static ad and boosting it to $5 a day. So if you have a restaurant and let's say you have happy hour, then you can say, okay, I want to boost my ad to my zip code and within a 5-mile radius every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and spend $25. And somebody within a zip code is going to see that ad. And if you have a good enough offer, an offer that's compelling, they're gonna take you up on it. So spending $5-10 a day is more than feasible on Facebook.
That's cool. That's a good feature. Question for you I have is, on Facebook today, are they cool with you going direct to a lead capture page, direct to a direct response page, or are you seeing more of it going to content like a blog now, or does it matter?
Great question, and they're okay with it, and before they weren't, but now they're totally okay. Like I mentioned, if you're working with somebody, if you know what you're doing, you always have to make sure you have that retargeting pixel on every page of your website. For one, the challenge with sending them to, I'll tell you, the benefit of sending them to a blog or let's say an educational piece is that typically both Facebook and Google love that because you're adding value to their consumer base. Whereas if you send them to an opt-in page, and they have basically nowhere to go, and they see that there's, for example, they kind of like I don't want to get too technical, but a bounce rate. They go and they get back. They said, Facebook knows that. They said, that page or that ad, I'm going to make them pay more, and I'm going to show them less because nobody likes the ad.
Right?
They click the ad. They go to the landing page, but they're leaving in within seconds. So they know that. They know everything. So they're going to make you pay more for that ad.
Versus you sending them to a nice content-rich blog post, couple tips, couple strategies with the links buried in the post, right?
Exactly, and then all of a sudden they're on the post, they're on that page for 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes, engaging with it. Facebook loves it, and hopefully the content is written in such a way that the call to action's obvious, and you get them to click the link that you want.
Question coming in, Jamie. How about direct Facebook traffic to webinar registration pages? Kind of like my workshop here. Same concept as the lead capture page philosophy.
Yeah. Yes and no. That's a great question. And my experience is you want to have literally a 4, 5, 6, 7 minute video explain. What happens is, unless you're a Frank Kern, unless you're a Ryan Dice, people know, and I'm obviously using the marketing example. If you're in a niche where nobody knows who you are, no one is going to register. I don't know you, I don't like you, I don't trust you, I don't like you, I don't trust you, you're not credible. So how do you change that? There's 2 ways. One, the initial ad is a video ad that is literally 5, 6, 7 minutes long, and you kind of telling people what it is you're going to do, the benefits of going to the webinar, the benefits of who you are, what you do. So you're indoctrinating people into teach and learning them, or kind of just educating them who you are.
Yeah,
you can do that's approach. Another approach.
Go ahead. Yeah, no, that's great. Go ahead.
Oh, okay, and then let's assume you do have a static ad. Okay, take them to a page where you're going to add value. We're going to give them a checklist. You're going to give them something to download, something that obviously for your niche is valuable. And then this is the thing, instead of saying, and now we'll go to my webinar, when they opt in, okay, so they put their name, email, they go to the thank you page. On the thank you page, they say, hey, by the way, you downloaded our ebook, but why don't you spend 45 minutes with us, and we'll go through the ebook in a ton of detail, and you'll understand it at a much higher degree. So now, all of a sudden, the back end is the webinar, so to speak, when they were kind of registering or downloading an ebook or a checklist, and everything's on the thank you page. It's kind of hidden.
Yeah, definitely.
Does that make sense?
Love that idea about the videos there to basically keep somebody staying on the page long enough to get probably a decent click-through rate, right? Yep, love it. Awesome. All right, Jamie, that was awesome, man. Appreciate you jumping out here. I know you're on the go, so I'm gonna let you bounce. And if you want to get in touch with Jamie, everybody, it's 30leads30days.com. He's a Facebook wizard. He's one of my 7-figure mastermind guys, and he's just doing some awesome stuff. So, Jamie, thanks for your contribution today. Really appreciate you jumping out, man.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. All the best. Take care. Thank you.